Well, last stage, it was Darkzero who popped off in the group stage, only falling slightly short in the playoffs. Cloud9, on the other hand, they come into stage 2 with a big roster change, something we are going to talk quite a bit more about. Welcome back to the NAL. This is stage 2. It is day 1. Diving into our third match of the day. I'm Jonas Willinger, and alongside me, I've got Foxe and Laxing as we get into the action here. This one, high stakes, of course. It's day 1, and you want to start out strong. Darkzero, if they can start this one with a win, they can get some of that momentum going that they had in the group stage last stage.
Yeah, and both teams need it. It's a battle for pride at the moment coming in. C9 wants to be able to show everybody how strong this change was that we've all been questioning. Darkzero, on the other hand, kind of a flop-out performance at EWC. For them, it's the same. They want to be able to show that they're still the same team from last stage.
Well, this Cloud9 roster, as we said, Laxing, it looks a little different. Hat has now joined this team in a flex capacity. Packer is gone. The former IGL, who was with this team for just over a stage, is now not part of the picture at all. Dream, the IGL roles fall to him.
Yeah, it's definitely quite the change. I mean, I said this in the beginning. I don't really agree with it, removing your IGL. And Fox already candidly put, we've already seen 2 people on that roster try to be IGL's facilitated team, make it work. It didn't. And again, now Dream is that player that is now going to be that focal point for this roster. And again, I just can't get behind this. I mean, I don't think Packer, again, was a bad player, should have been removed. No slight to Hat. I think Hat is a great player in his own right. But in terms of what this roster needs, to me, that is not what the roster needs. I think they should have given Packer another stage to understand what can we do differently, similar to what we just saw from Standby. And I gotta say, Standby looks significantly better. So for all the changes, I just can't get behind this one because you're removing that vocal point, whereas yes, Fox, you have addressed that they do need firepower, but even if statistically you have 5 players that can shoot and do really well, if you don't have a team leader that's gonna point you in the right direction, set you up, be able to adapt on the fly, you are going to struggle no matter what.
I mean, more time with Packer would have been good, but if we talk about what the biggest issue was, in my opinion, when you look at the stats from last stage, Kobe was the only positive player. He was +9, not even in double digits, single digits. So when we say, oh, do you have 5 players that can compete with everyone in the league? I frankly don't think Cloud9 does have it. So if you are going to make that risk, that transition of dropping Packer, the player you'd want to get is maybe someone that's going to be consistently putting up double-digit frags to help Kobe out. Hat is not that player, in my opinion. We saw him on OXG, kind of on that flex support. He does do well for himself, but we don't see him topping the leaderboard as we usually do. And then it doesn't really sit comfortably with me that this is the right transition for them to go to. And yes, you're putting Dream, you're putting him in the assistance of other players that haven't found success IGLing previous rosters. We also saw Dream in his previous team of OXG, and he was having struggles when I left the team, and he had to take that mantle up. So now I hope I'm wrong because I love Dream. I want to see him succeed. But this roster change needs to be proven to us.
Oh, absolutely. And again, I think the biggest key factor here, again, for me is just losing the IGL and not having that voice. Whereas, again, I don't think Packer was the true issue. When they were trying to problem solve, it was really just throwing body after body after body. There wasn't really much adaptation being done here. So if I can see something that is indifferent in terms of whether they go down in man advantage, whether they're up in a situation, if I can just see key pieces moving around the map and just understand fluidity throughout each and every single round, then I can get behind it. But what we saw last stage wasn't there. And again, I think Packer just needed one more stage to really get those fundamentals down to lead this team in the right direction. But obviously we won't be able to get to see that. But I have to see something this game. And against a team like Darkzero, it has to be there from the get-go.
Well, for Darkzero, there were no roster changes. And Fox, it feels like this makes sense. You come off of stage 1. You had a 2nd place performance overall. Unfortunately, EWC didn't go so well. But just looking to build on that stage 1 performance within the region, that's at least where their thoughts have to be.
Yeah, I mean, of course, when you're doing as well as Darkzero did last stage and you have a bad event, it's not necessarily grounds for termination of any player. It wasn't a team issue. It really came down to the strategy, because what carried them through stage 1 was relying behind Spirits, being able to go for these aggressive plays, forcing people to move around because you have Spirits to do that. But it seems like every team at EWC was able to have an understanding of how to work against Spirits and Darkzero. And that's what we saw when Darkzero faced SR into the later half of stage 1. Then we go to EWC. They have a great blowout match against FaZe, and then they fall short. 7-1, 2-0 by Weibo. I mean, those are stat lines that you should not be seeing from Darkzero. It should be way closer, and it paints the picture that Darkzero is good against teams that have to move. FaZe has to move. They're very fluid, very aggressive, so it works out. But when they go up against a static team like Virtus Pro, or a team that's unpredictable like Weibo, they find themselves in a place where they can adapt if Spirits can't find that opening or that disruption.
I mean, I love that you talk about that because, again, we already have highlighted this new DZ roster can get aggressive compared to the old DZ and how they played. So winning a game against a team like FaZe where they set that momentum, they set that pace, makes perfect sense. But on a team like VP or a team like Weibo, where, again, the lack of understanding what this team is going to do, or even for VP, for example, a team that historically has stuck it through and through in terms of their strategy, where I could see an old DZ sort of play style being a lot more slow, more methodical, they would get those wins under their belt. So I think it's a similar situation that we've talked about with SSG, is just understanding when to play aggressive, when to play passive, just knowing when you can hold pieces together and wait for those things to be exposed and then collapse on them. I think that, for me, is a big thing for Darkzero that SSG has gotten over a hurdle of.
Well, that's great. We'll get to see that play style and how they want to play that, whether it's going to be aggressive, a little bit more passive. Obviously, depends on the territory we go to now. Cloud9, we have to see how this change takes shape. Likely, they're not going to want to overcomplicate it, changing the IGL on the fly. Where could they go here?
I mean, I think Darkzero is going to try to take them to a bigger map, essentially. We're seeing Skyscraper ban, Chalet ban. That's what they want to look for. I'm expecting some type of a Lair or a Labs. Cloud9's going to take down Lair because Cloud9 just lost their main IGL. It's going to take them time before they can progress on bigger maps that you have to watch the time, and consume map presence off of that time. So going up to Labs, I think DZ played it exceptionally smart by taking out smaller maps, forcing Cloud9 to have to go to a place that the previous roster was comfortable, but you just lost your IGL, and that's a whole new thing you have to get through.
Yeah, I mean, as we know, they're starting on defense, which is already great. It doesn't really come too much on Dream's end. It just comes onto the team actually being able to work together in cohesion and understanding the win potential, what can come from around. But when it gets to those attacks, that's where I'm really going to have to see Dream and the rest of Cloud9 come alive, especially coming in with Hat. But again, for serving sample between the two, I mean, I would definitely more favor Darkzero in this matchup, whereas Cloud9, we did see them versus SR in that first matchup. They did start to mount that comeback, but then once they immediately switched sides, that's when they fell apart. And that's where it all went downhill. They corrected their wrongs going against Cruelty, but even then, when you're looking at that serving size, I would say I would more put my eggs in the basket on DZ's end than more so on Cloud9.
Yeah, and when C9 was really tested, we saw a lot of individual plays. It didn't really come down to the IGL. When it got to their attacks, there was a lot of post plants. I mean, there's that one clip of, Giddy peeking down the floor on a clutch that almost went south. So if you find yourself in this situation without your IGL and a new IGL, I'm expecting Cloud9 to not necessarily be as disciplined as we wanted them to be in that Cruelty game. So obviously, it's all going to come down to how much effort they really believe in Dream as the IGL, in Hat as their new Slayer. We'll have to see when it comes down to it, but for me, I mean, Darkzero is going to be the easy favorite going into this match.
Cloud9, lot to prove, because clearly a bit of doubt about this roster move. We'll see if they can make this one happen. Jesse, I'm interested in what you have to say about this one. Cloud9 move, good or bad? Let's find out.
Well, Jonah, listen, for me, it's an open mind game, okay? I want to see what they can show before I have any opinions. Now, I've long been a Packer fan. I do like him as an IGL and as a player, and so it did make me a little sad to see him being removed, but Hat is also a great player. He's proven himself in Tier 1 multiple times, of course, was at the 6th Invitational in Boston with that OXG squad, and I think performed pretty well there. So I like Hat quite a bit. Will it immediately translate into success for Cloud9? I think it's going to be tough, especially against a team like Darkzero, but only time will tell, and I'm going into this game with an open mind. Parker, nobody cares what you have to think about Hats. We'll get right to the op bans, where generally the focus is on Hard Breach. Not so this time, though. Cloud9 will ban out the Glaz, opening the opportunity for Darkzero to ban both Kaid and Bandit and make Hard Breaching essentially free for the entirety of this game. If they don't want to go for the Bandit, then Nero would be the most common expected operator to be removed. For Cloud9, I have no clue what they're going to pair with this Glaz. It's going to be the Blitz instead.
Thank you. I mean, now I know what you feel like when there are stretches of action and you're not able to talk as often as you'd probably like, but I am very intrigued to see the way that this is going to go. Obviously, the announcement of Hat being added to the roster came just a couple days ago. Darkzero are pretty hot off of a about as good as it could possibly get without finishing first overall stage 1. I think that's what we say on the second place trophy that they get, is you almost did it. DZ was toppled by Space Station in that playoff grand final that occurred, oh my goodness, almost 2 months ago? It was mid-July, so we're not even 2 months removed from that. SSG winning 2-1, and they were very, very one-sided maps. It was like 7-1, 7-2, 7-1, or something along those lines for the teams that did prevail. But I mean, still, Darkzero went through a heck of a run. They got a bye in the upper bracket semis, defeated Wildcard 2-0, lost to Shopify Rebellion 2-1, or beat Shopify Rebellion 2-1, sorry, and then made it into the grand final and dropped, obviously, to Space Station. DZ looked like a team that was going to be unbeatable for quite some time, until the tail end of the season, where they dropped their last 2 matches to both Shopify Rebellion and Space Station in all 12 rounds. Darkzero are going to be playing hungry. They're going to be playing angry, I have no doubt. And they are, after watching our first match, where Shopify Rebellion didn't look like the unbeatable team that they did in all of Stage 1, DZ's likely licking their chops, knowing that they can be the undisputed best team through the group stages. They got to start with Cloud9.
Well, Darkzero will begin this attack. Again, no Blitz or Glass on the board. Glass is a big operator for Spirits on this bomb site, so it does make some sense removing him from the board. Again, Heartbreach is going to be trivial in this first half for Darkzero due to how the bans played out. So NJ gets the IT wall pretty easily. You've got Citizen, who's working down below, going to get some great vert play happening with that Deimos. And Dream on this clash. This is the real question mark for me on Cloud9. It's less so how will Hat do on this new team, but it's more how will Dream be as an IGL. It's been a long time since we've seen Dream in this team captain role, usually being captained by, of course, Packer in Stage 1 and Foxay for most of his career. Meets Spirits up in Rafters and actually does quite well to move him out of the way, but it's a 1-for-1 exchange as both Kobe and Pamba end up falling here.
Pambazoo is one of the highest rated players consistently throughout his career in live events and in domestic matches, so it will be rough for DZ to be without him, but part of the reason why they picked up players like Spirits and Citizen in the first place is to provide more complementary forces and also increase their fragging potential just ever so slightly. You've also still got the Mayor. NJR can dominate quite easily, even if he will be on Hard Breach for what I imagine is most of this lab's tenure. Some damage is being done to Hat, C9's newest player, as he's now chased off of his position from that death mark. It's the first time that you and I are going to get to see the newly reworked Nighthaven Labs. It did get a touch-up. It was one of the 3 maps in Operation High Stakes that was modernized alongside Consulate and Lair. Knave takes down Silent, and Spirits is traded out by Hat, who is still on a single point of HP. Both he and Knave are kindred spirits in that regard. And with 30 seconds left, 6 players still remain, 3 on each side. The focus for DZ is over towards Fish, or Aqua, if you want to call it that. Dream now has an opportunity to push up ever so slightly. He's chased off by the Flores drone used by Knave. Hat, what remains of Hat at least, is gone. Dream will find 2 very quick kills, and Knave and NJR double up for the last 2, even though Dream looked like he'd be able to pull it off. DZ seize the tail moment of that round and take it. They're up 1-0.
What a ridiculous round that was, Parker. It was a 3v3, but I thought positioning was heavily favored for Cloud9 because DZ were so clumped up over towards Aqua. The one player that wasn't in the clump, though, was NJR, and apparently nobody was looking as he got a freebie pick onto Hat to get man advantage. Then Dream off-screen 1v2s with the Clash. I have no clue how that one went down, but somehow Dream kills both Citizen and Naif. And then there's less than 10 seconds remaining, and Giddy ends up going down. A heartbreaking way to lose that first round from Cloud9 because it really felt like with Dream on the Clash, they had locked that down and would have no issues winning it and going up 1-0. Not to be, though. Darkzero pull off some crazy stuff, and we end up seeing one of those rounds that goes down to the wire. This play by Silence I thought was really incredible, too. Killing Spirits really killed the momentum of that push, and once again, it was just up to those last couple of players to bring it back.
Spirits is, because of the role that he plays and the operators that he plays, oftentimes an integral part of the execute for DZ's attacks. Yeah, we usually see him on shields. That's basically what I mean. Basically what I'm saying is that he plays shields because they are usually among the most important part of any execute that you see. Spirits will give himself a bit more fragging potential on the Blackbeard instead of running with the Monty like he did in the previous round, and he'll lock that operator in as DZ looks for a utility-heavy lineup here. They've got the anti-flank, they've got some anti-gadgetry, and they've got plenty of fragging potential.
Like Kobe on the Azami up here in Rafters. One of the rare maps where Azami is not focused in the bans because Kaid and Bandit are just so important. So you do see a lot of Azami play on Night Haven, and Kobe is basically always going to stick on this operator. Might see things change up a little bit if they go to the basement, but broadly, Kobe will be running this operator most rounds on defense. Top floor just as important for storage as it was last round for the top floor defense. If you can get this IT wall open, you can start denying that vertical pressure. You can try to work a plant in through storage. And if you can take all of top floor, then you get a couple more options where maybe you can go plant inside of control instead. You can really start working the vert angles too. So this duel up above is vitally important. Kobe hoping to just stay alive, denying anybody from walking in IT. He's got Hat inside of servers, Silence there as well to give him support.
Completely disoriented. What a miserable experience for Spirits, and yet he endures. Dream the first one to get a kill, but immediately DZ finds two. Spirits on a single point of HP, but the explosives must have stopped at this point, so he finds a golden opportunity as DZ crush the final players, of which were three. Over half of the team of C9 still alive and then swept into the dustbin of that round in very short order. DZ has broken very little sweat over those 2 rounds and find themselves in a great spot and playing far better than Cloud9 up to this point.
Really clean push on storage. That's one of those bomb sites where you don't need a lot of control. If there's nobody in the basement, once IT is open, there's kind of nothing else stopping you. The only thing that would stop you would be a nitro cell, and Dream had that, but Spirits lived on 1 HP. He was so low, answered by nading out Dream himself, so they ended up winning the exchange on the explosives, and then Darkzero, just full control of the site. You can't deny it from up above as long as that IT wall is a threat. So good stuff from Darkzero, recognizing they didn't need much map control, and they took it extremely quickly, certainly catching Cloud9 off guard. And you've got a newer IGL, someone who will change the dynamic of the team. Sometimes going fast and trying to catch them off guard can work even better than it otherwise would against teams that have been a 5-man stack for a little bit longer. It's going to be one of the challenges that we'll have to see Cloud9 adapt to throughout this season, as this one change that they've made is quite impactful in terms of how the whole team functions.
I mean, when you get rid of your IGL and bring in another player, there's always going to be, I would imagine, a step back, right?
Get ready. I'm gonna give them hell.
DZ went through that. I mean, people were loving DZ's lack of success after taking Canadian off of that team when Nave took over, but people have short memories. And now DZ is playing much better, and so too is Shopify Rebellion. It was a great trade for both teams. Well, Cloud9 inevitably beat their results from stage 1. Well, I mean, they finished 7th. They were 1 point back, actually, of that 6th spot, which ended up going in favor of Wildcard, but Cloud9 very easily could have made that top 6. They were at least close enough to their contemporaries. Will there be enough of a setback that it hurts them in the race to get into that top 6? Potentially. But, I mean, the first 2 rounds are any indication this C9 team is having some troubles at the present moment.
A little bit surprised to see NJR switch over to the Ace. Dynamite usually thought to be a little bit stronger on this top floor just because you guarantee get those 2 walls open, both connector and the IT wall. Maybe as a response to the mirror windows, could be a big part of it here. Hunting for a pick Rafters with some good Grim work, but again, Kobe on his favorite operator will be quick to back off so he doesn't go down. A lot of Darkzero still focusing around this Aqua Stairs. I guess technically it worked out for them in round 1, although it did feel like it was a bit awkward. Silent, wow, flattens Spirits at the top though. That's going to make this Aqua push a little bit awkward.
Spirits dying early in round 1 was not a great sign, but they were still able to get themselves out of that spot. Citizen dying now on a Slow peek to Silent is not ideal. Down goes Giddy at the hands of NJR, so DZ will keep numbers close with a minute still left on the clock. Nafe holds the diffuser. He'll have NJR and Pambazoo to watch over him as two players on the side of C9 are still searching for their first kills. They could be lucky enough to find one of these remaining DZ players as Kobe and Hat's still searching for his first kill on C9, period. When you expect somebody like Kobe to get kills, though, he's going to have to start racking them up to keep lockstep with DZ. Down goes Hat at the hands of NJR, and now the black mirror that stands between NJR and the bomb site will be picked apart. Look at this multiple lineup that we have from DZ in this position. They'll barrel on over. Pambazoo dies, but is traded out immediately. Kobe's on the ground, Silent and NJR in a 1v1 with limited time left. NJR will need to grab the diffuser, swing on in. He has no real information, and Silent gets him on the door frame. Cloud9 gets on the board.
Massive 4K from Silent. Last stage versus Darkzero, he got 4 kills total through the entire game. It was his worst game of the stage. He went 4-8 versus DZ in that 7-3 loss that they had in stage 1. He got 4 kills in just a single round. Should be feeling extremely good about that. Starting top Aqua, shutting down the Blackbeard, getting the second player at the bottom of the stairs, and then responding really nicely to DZ's fast push in through connector. Darkzero were in a difficult spot once again, attacking that top floor, all grouped up in one position. Instead of being grouped up top Aqua, that time they were grouped up connector. So they just said, we gotta send it, boys. Hope that in the chaos we can catch them off guard, get a few kills, and they did just that. But shotgun close range 1v1, that's always going to favor the defenders. So really nicely played by Silent throughout the round, start to finish. Shows exactly why he's such a strong player for this team.
And Jesse, we will see for the first time in the North America League, Denari, the newest operator added to a Rainbow Six Siege. The Swiss operator plays as a defender and has a pretty tricky little gadget. They're called trips, or I mean, it stands for something, but trip connectors, basically. He's kind of like a Rooney, right?
Yes.
He's able to create laser gates-ish, which I'm overjoyed to hear Ace of Pyrite say at some point, that do damage and stop gadgets and all that jazz. And we'll watch as he maneuvers around the map, and we'll be able to talk about how that gadget works.
Multiple connections established.
So putting a couple of connectors at the top Aqua, he puts 4, so that's going to do quite a bit of damage if somebody walks in that doorway. He's notably also placed them in places where they cannot get shot from outside. That's pretty critical. To clear those out, you're going to have to maybe throw a Twitch drone in there, or get an EMP, or clear it with some kind of a utility burn. Back in the test server, it was really tough to clear those out with util burn by throwing flashes and stuff at them, but they did nerf this operator right before he came to live. So now you get 8 seconds if you throw a flash at that laser or something else where it will stay down and you can make that entry point happen. I think a necessary change that will stop some of the shenanigans we saw being experimented with on the test server. I saw some ridiculous clips ahead of time.
I saw it on social media. My feed was quite heavily inundated by creative ways to do that. And I mean, it might not come from a comp standpoint, but Rainbow Six is pretty fortunate to have a dedicated, crafty side of content creation. Guys who find little tricks and little tips with the trip mines. Silent is down for the count, so that will be all we see out of that operator. Hat's still searching for his very first kill. It will come in the next round as he's now dead. And Kobe found 1 kill on the Citizen, as Citizen actually takes down Nafe as well. Things couldn't have gone much worse for DZ in that ensuing fight. You lose both Citizen and Nafe in the same altercation. It's a big error. Now NJR needs to run through the fire and the flames. He and Spirits are the last 2 up. Spirits, no logic bombs remaining. Both have been used. Down goes Dream at the hands of Spirits, so fragging potential is still there from Darkzero. NJR does not know when he's going to be able to get that diffuser down, as he and Spirits hold these defenders for the moment at bay. Tracers will go in, and it looks like Cloud9 will fall off for the time being.
where do you plant? I mean, you can't plant in Nano, of course, so you've got to choose some other spot. Anywhere that you go for a plant, they'll probably get a vert angle on you, so you've got to be sneaky. You've got to go somewhere they don't expect, and hopefully they won't find you on the plants.
You can hear NJR firing away. It was Giddy absorbing a little bit of damage. But you're right. Where do you go at this point? You've lost control above. You have to find some salvation somewhere in the site. No smokes to pull this one off. 2 flashbangs in pocket of NJR, but those will hardly help. He thinks he's found safe harbor. And it'll be spirits to ensure that the seas don't get too choppy. Beautiful panoramic view there as the diffuser does go down. A retake from the bomb site. Kobe takes down NJR. Giddy prevails. And all he needs to do is head home, as he'll have no problem hopping on that diffuser. Ice in the veins of those last 2 players of Cloud9 as they handle the post plant perfectly. And it's another big round for C9.
Really well played by Giddy in the 2v2 and I mean just in the 1v1 as well. Moving fast, not letting Darkzero get into a strong spot in that post plant. Just really solid locking things down. And it's another round where Darkzero are kind of getting scrappy in the early game. They're not having really successful starts to these rounds. Consistently, somebody on Cloud9, whether it's Silent going for a swing, whether it's Kobe forcing a team kill and then killing that guy as well right here. That was such a big move from Kobe. Effectively 2 kills up on the roam. No matter what happens, Darkzero just cannot get a good execute or a clean execute where they get all of their players into the boards, the bomb site, right where they want them. It's always scrappy kind of plan Bs that Darkzero are going to have to go for. It's allowed Cloud9 to tie this game up 2-2, and credit to Darkzero, right? In some of those scrappy late rounds, they're coming out on top. The first couple ones, to be specific. But I don't think you're going to be confident going against a team like Cloud9 where every round gets scrappy into the late game. You know, you want to be a little bit more composed if you're Darkzero. You want the strategy to be going your way, I think, a little bit cleaner than what we've seen so far. Cloud9, I think, for their part as well, I'm not just trying to talk about DZ. Cloud9 have done a great job at forcing that scrappiness, at getting aggressive in the early game so that it's not a clean execute for Darkzero. I think there's quite a good chance that Cloud9 kind of had that idea coming into this game that they want to disrupt DZ. They don't want to let them get them set up. And I think that plan's working pretty well for them.
I am a bit upset we didn't see more from Minari. I wanted to see more uses of the gadget and a greater impact on the round. You and I actually talked a little bit offline about Denari before today's play day, and you brought up a good point that the general consensus seems to be he's not the strongest of operators at the present moment.
Yeah, I think that the secondary shotgun was maybe a little overhyped as to what it could be doing. It doesn't really accomplish a whole lot other than just making small sight lines. We did see a Denari laser trip kill last night in the Australian League. So we have seen the gadget get some value in Tier 1, but not so far in North America. I saw that Denari clip on a Tom J. Sherlock reaction clip, which is, if I'm being honest, how I view most of my OCE content. It's a bad time zone for me.
Actually, they've got a couple time zones, Jesse. It's not just the same time zone.
Okay, but everybody lives in one time zone. I mean, let's be real here.
Whoa, dude.
Wow.
Kobe Lax defeating NJR on that swing. Kobe Lax struggled to find kills early in this first half. He's certainly picked it up since then. Hat the only player searching for a kill at this point in time. He's been held off of the score sheet. That's not the debut that you want from a player who has topped the standings on his team before, but there will be an adjustment period. When you switch things up, when you bring in a new player, when you have to either learn a new system or figure out a new system or even work to implement one yourself, there is going to be a period of time where you just simply don't play to your expectations. Most teams have these problems. You call them teething issues, whatever you want. Oh. Spirit's nose. Down goes Nafe at the hands of Giddy. Things for Darkzero through the first 2 rounds looked great. They've fallen back a little bit here, Jesse. A bit of a regression now as Cloud9 leads in numbers. Dream taking some damage from Spirits above, and we hit the final 30 seconds.
They'll get to the bomb site, but no top floor control is going to make this really tough, Parker. And Pamba alone in the 1v4 seems hopeless. He'll go back up above to try to hunt for some kills, but the time is going to be a huge problem in this round.
15 seconds left.
I mean, Pamba is usually able to pull off clutches.
10 seconds left.
But I mean, this map, this team, 4 players now make that 3. Yeah, there's no chance at all. Silent gets the exit kill yet again. High impact frags for him. But I mean, if he'd got no kill there at all, I suspect the round probably would have ended with a victory for Cloud9. There on your screen is the newest pickup from Cloud9, Hat being brought over. He's played on LAN before. You referenced that he played at SI on OXG. He's had a rough acclimation period to this team, and yet the team is still winning. Hat has really been a non-factor through so many of these rounds, and it hasn't really mattered.
Yeah,
C9 at the lead, by the way.
I think it comes down to just, again, what they're doing in the early game. It's consistently somebody on Cloud9 who is stepping up, who is getting that opening pick, who is causing chaos in this Darkzero attack. That time it was Kobilax. I mean, there's no rule in Siege that says when you're playing top rafters as a zombie, you should just swing the garage door, right? Nobody says that you should be making that play, but Kobilax knows that he's got to take some risks. He's got to play a little bit aggressive because that's the game plan for C9 in this game. They want to stop Darkzero from setting up, from going for the push that they want to. And if they can cause this chaos, if they can get in the heads of Darkzero, then everything seems to fall apart. 3 in a row now for Cloud9. They've gotten the opening pick in 2 of those 3, but I would say in all 3 of them, they did a really good job of just disrupting Darkzero in the early game. DZ, if they want to go even, get a 3-3 split after the first half of Nighthaven Labs, they need to find an answer to that. And it won't be simple as they are attacking again on the top floor, and they've got that clash once again being brought through by Dream, which was extremely effective when we saw it the first time.
I was going to say about his play on Aqua is something that I suspect will be hard to replicate, but it remains to be seen. Hat did get a kill, by the way.
Huge.
Huge. Well, I mean, that's the sort of thing you need. Kobe's obviously feeling pretty good as that window gets shot out in front of him. He goes for a swing, and nobody from DZ is able to capitalize off of that. Kobe doesn't hit anybody either, and as you can see, they all walk away with the same HP they had before it all began. One thing that this new secondary pistol being added to all these operators has done is it's allowed a lot more shotguns on attack. You know, I remember back in the day when you would see Sledge running a shotgun from time to time because of that SMG, and obviously you had a... Well, you fell off for a while there whenever he was playing Buck. But it's good to see that Sledge is back with that shotgun. It's nice to see. Obviously, Ying's shotgun is not abnormal. We see that all the time, irrespective of what her sidearm might be, but... I mean, there's a lot of flexibility that can come with running an automatic sidearm. A lot of the pistols in this game are not to be relied upon for main weapons. Nafe dies at the C4, tossed out by Giddy as Hat is punished by NJR. Both of these teams go back and forth as that IT breach has now been opened. A smoke is ready to go. Pambazu trades most of his HP to gun down Kobilax. That's a pretty decent trade if I do say so myself. Pambazu now with 6 kills to his name, leading not just DZ, but tied at the top with Silent in the lobby. Using not just his gun, but also those Bs as Pambazu will try to keep these C9 players honest in their positions. He goes for a bit of provocation and falls back. 45 seconds to go in the advantage right now for DZ, Jesse.
Yeah, how do they get in? These mirror windows still remain. The util's not been there. They get some good information with the air jab, but it's not going to change a whole lot. They still can't enter the site, Parker, and even when everybody's full blind, what does that get you?
Out go the smokes, and now a Candela will go as well. Warden in the hands of Silent, a pivotal operator and a pivotal player who's been relied upon for C9, but Giddy's getting the job done. Dream is in on it as well. They all clean up. All of the remaining players of C9 credited with the kill. I think it was Giddy to get the final kill. It was hard to tell from how quickly all of DZ toppled, but despite being outnumbered, C9 are making DZ work for it, and I gotta say, this new look of Cloud9 doesn't look that bad. They have the lead through 6 rounds.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, with how that game could have gone, we could be looking at like a 5-1 half for Cloud9, maybe even a 6-0 if things go drastically different. Could be looking the other way too. We saw some 1v1s won by Cloud9, but regardless, they're really keeping pace with Darkzero and outpacing them in a lot of areas, particularly in that early round. We saw those mirror windows really come into effect for Cloud9 in the last round. There was a really sick interaction where we saw Giddy Nitro into connector. Then we saw a Tuberao stall out the ace charge that was on the connector Mira. Then we saw Dream retake space with the Clash and protect the Mira from Giddy as he went back to clear out the Selma charges. I mean, there's so much coordination in a play like that. And for you to be doing it right after making a roster move with a brand new IGL, with your newest player involved in that play, right? Hat was the guy playing on the Tuberao. I mean, that just really shows how much work Cloud9 have been putting in behind the scenes. They knew it would be a big change, right? Taking Packer off the roster, but I gotta say, I'm really impressed so far, Parker. I wasn't maybe convinced in Dream being an IGL because we just haven't seen him play this role in so long. I think you got to go back to maybe Mirage, maybe Tempo. I honestly don't know when he was IGLing last, but it's been a while since we've seen him on a captain position, and I honestly think he's done a great job so far playing on the Clash and giving this information to his teammates. It's making a big difference.
And he himself is playing well too. You know, on that old iteration of C9, his numbers were a little underwater. Now he's doing quite well on that role from a killing and objective perspective, and obviously the contributions he's making from a leadership role, well, I mean, they're a little bit harder for us to pinpoint just because we can't hear what he's saying, but I mean, the results do speak for themselves, and I think you're absolutely correct. I have to give some credit to Giddy too. Giddy has often lived in the shadow of some of the players on this team and really hasn't gotten his flowers the way that maybe he's deserved. He's been grinding an awful long time to get to this level, and here he is, and he's flourishing in this first match. What really strikes me the most of this result, Jesse, is that Nighthaven Labs was the second most popular map through the group stages of stage 1. But it was attacker-sided. Not by much, by literally 2 percentage points. So very, very close. 56 rounds won by the attackers, 54 by the defenders. But that's a scoreline that just by itself should not lead to a 4-2 half for the defenders. It happens, obviously, because that's just how stats work. But it does suggest to me that Cloud9 is doing more than they should be on this map, and that's credit to them.
Darkzero historically great at attacking this map too. I mean, just against FaZe Clan back at EWC, they went flawless, 4-0. So their attacks on Nighthaven can be extremely strong at times, just not today when they're dealing with the problems being presented. Can't worry about that though. The defense is calling. These next 6 rounds will all be played on this half. Monty being a huge problem, but Citizen, I think, is dealing with it really well. The Kibas keep him safe, and there's nobody really to help the Monty out. So he's just being a distraction.
And Giddy of all people, with the very first pick, Silent taken down by NJR amidst the chaos. It's the Mayor on the ground with the shotgun out. Nafe on the board this round as well. He's a name we haven't said very much. C9 fall by the wayside. My goodness, a lot harder to attack, I suppose, and DZ crushed them on that round.
NJR in a late round anchor position. There's maybe nobody better in the world. He recently received the Slug Sensei TCSG skin for his 1v5 up against Team Secret in Manchester, back when we had the most recent set of the Legacy Esports skins to come on out, showing exactly how good he can be in that position. Can't be running the TCSG now that we've banned out the Kaid. I suppose he could run it on the Strike or the Sentry or the Goyo, but that same operator that he's used to playing it with won't be available thanks to the bans. But still, with a shotgun in his hands, he is one of the most dangerous players in the world. Finding out the hard way are Cloud9 inside of storage. Almost trying to replicate what DZ did back in round number 2 with the fast storage window hop-in, but much less successful.
I mean, at least it was a very quick round. I mean, if you're a fan of Cloud9, that's a, well, you know, that round's over. Let's just move on and turn our sights now towards round number 8 here. I mean, looking at the operator bans and looking at the way these teams are playing, we're very much within the reason that we are looking at a defender-sided Nighthaven Labs. If that's the case, DZ are in much better position from here on out. I'm gonna wag my finger a little bit at how Cloud9 got ahead of themselves on that previous push. I know that you're not gonna go through Discovery and you're not gonna drone as much when you're gonna Candela and smoke things off, but I mean, I feel like DZ is just not a team that you can do that to. I feel like there's just too many weapons on the side of Darkzero, and they've seen rush plays before where Linear takes, they don't work. Quick takes, they don't work as effectively. DZ obviously is not unbeatable. We saw that at the events that they've been at, and we saw that in the regular stages and then the playoffs too. But I mean, Cloud9 have been playing very well here, but they are still a objectively less experienced team, and sometimes that lack of experience really can show through.
For sure. I mean, it's your first attack. You go for a risky, aggressive strat. It doesn't work out. That's fine. You can reset for the rest of this game. We'll attack the top floor now in our second attack from Cloud9, and it looks like it's going to be connector focused as we're starting to enter over towards top lobby. Dream on the Monty will hopefully be able to flex those IGLing skills as you can call exactly what's going on the defensive side. Getting these walls should be a lot harder for Cloud9 than it was for DZ, with both Ace and Thermite being removed. They're going to have to rely on Abonatrix or Mavtrix if they want to open the wall fully, but this time it's just can openers to try to get at least angles into the walls, which will make walking in connector or walking in IT really awkward.
Out goes the first death mark from Kobilax, and losing Pambazoo for Darkzero will be a debilitating blow, but not a fatal one. The clash of Nafe is now being watched as shields on both sides of this battlefield will likely meet. Some nice tracking onto the clash. Dream was in hot pursuit as well. Kobe tossed out a nade, but NJR baits him in. That is unideal for C9. If I'm Kobilax, I'm a little bit miffed at that one. Giddy entering the bomb site, takes down NJR, finds a second into Spirits for good measure, and now it's Nafe and Citizen. The lads themselves, the British duo, the British boys. As the last two standing, Citizen over on Catwalk, absorbing an awful lot of damage, but still upright and mobile to support the clash of Nafe as C9 gets ever closer to the site. Citizen will have to do more than the 3 kills he has. He'll add a fourth, no fifth to be had. Hat with one, Silent the other. And the Brits are sent packing. He does not want to be on cam. Another round for C9 as their lead grows.
What a round from Giddy, too, though. I mean, stepping up in that IT door, that's a huge player inside of Electrical. He knows that there's a shotgun on the other side of things, right? He knows that NJR is playing right there on smoke because his Deimos player down below, Kobilax, just died to him. But he has no fear. He doesn't care. He just goes for it anyways. He catches off guard NJR by moving so quickly for it, and then re-swings a second time because he knows they're panicking in the bomb site. That was a really nice play from Giddy, who, again, I think maybe didn't have the performance he was looking for in stage 1. He had a 0.88 KDR. It wasn't exactly a shining performance for his first NAL stage, but now to start things off the second stage here against Darkzero, that's a really great round. And it comes to cap off a really great game from him. I believe double-digit kills now for Cloud9, just 8 rounds in, is super impressive.
A tech pause here being called, which, as you can see, players are not allowed to talk to each other during tech pauses. At least that's the rule. That is sometimes maybe not listened to as loudly as it should, which often results in some rebuke from admins. This is a rough spot for both Nafe and Citizen to be, because when you lose the bomb site and you are fighting solely from that rafter, solely from Catwalk, you don't really have a lot of options to get back into the site. IT is usually open, so going through there into the site is really challenging. There's no run out potential through the door on the Catwalk. If you're going to drop down, most of the stairwells that get you back up there don't offer much better options either. I mean, maybe you could go through Aqua if you think that they're not looking in that direction, but that's a decently long run to get there. This is a tough spot to be in. You know, the walls are open, but the proverbial walls are closing in on you at that point. Also, Jesse, Giddy with 10 kills is huge, but I don't feel like we've been saying NJR's name enough for me to look down and go, oh, he has 9 kills. All right, great.
He's had some huge moments, I gotta say. The last 2 rounds in particular, since swapping to the defense, have been where he's really started to shine. But, I mean, I think his impact on the attack was maybe something that we didn't quite catch on, as it was a little bit quieter and a little bit spread out more. Speaking of being spread out more, this defense from Darkzero is across the entire map. Citizens upstairs inside a server. You've got Pamba and Spirits on the main floor alongside Nafe, mostly holding down the staircases, right? The ways back down into the basement. Citizen is more or less alone. Someone could rotate to help him out. but he's on a drone. And without that knowledge of him being on that camera, he is going to be in a really awkward spot. Shoots the drone, so he does know this now, but the pressure is about to be on, and Citizen needs to go at least 1-for-1 here.
Main criticism that Citizen has faced in his entire career is that he plays a solo and lurking style where he is often unsupported and can seem to be a bit disconnected from the push. And if he's lurking in a position where he spends 2.5 minutes not eating up utility, not eating up gadgetry, just waiting, or he dies too early, you make an argument that he didn't really have the impact on the round that one would hope, especially for somebody who's as good as he is. I don't necessarily take much stock of that criticism because he has been a brilliant and terrific player through most of his career. But there are moments where you will see him do something, and because you're not on the team, your first instinct is, why are you there? What is going on? That said, he seems to be playing a little bit closer with DZ since hopping on this roster, and it has seemed to pay off. Now it's Nate fighting for his life upstairs as Dream's walking in amidst the smoke. A lineup from the Nitro cell is ripped perfectly. Giddy dies. Dream takes a bit of damage. Nafe with the 2-piece. Not being shaken from this spot by Giddy earlier allows Dream to die too, and that is unideal for Cloud9. They have just watched as this round has basically went up in smoke, Jesse.
Plant denied, and yeah, I mean, this all falls apart. There's no plan B. Nafe can't be stopped with a 3K, and Kobe, he gets 1 for his troubles, finally finds Spirits, but it's a 1v3, 30 seconds, no defuse kit, and they're going to know where he's coming from. Just don't see this one being in the realm of possibilities. Would force Kobe to go positive if he does grab this. There is nobody above, so I mean, these are 3 gunfights he could take. They're going to give him the defuse kit. They're going to allow him to start to go for this plant, but the second he starts, the swings will come out. Tries to bait them at first. He gets the first of 3, but no more than that. Pamba great to shut him down in the end there, and really nice denial from up above on Nafe. I'm shocked he got the kill onto the Monty planting, but somehow found the angle.
I mean, he had the angle from above on the door frame, and he saw that the Monty was pushing in before the first smoke went down. The coverage was on Giddy's shoulders as he played outside. Whether you wanted to open things up so that you could watch over that after killing Nafe in that position, which I think might have been the goal of the Ram in that spot, I'm not sure. That's my main suspicion. But I mean, Giddy needed to win that engagement because the moment he didn't, the whole plan unraveled. And when you've got Nafe just sitting over top of the most default plant spot in that bomb site, bad things are going to happen to you if you're an attacker and your focus is solely on the basement and the defenders still have a person above staring down at you. I mean, Nafe is not exactly a fragger, but he is very creative in the way he plays, and he's no slouch. I mean, when you look at everybody playing in the NAL right now, they all deserve to be here from a mechanical standpoint. Some are obviously better than others. But if you give Nafe a perfect lineup through the floor onto an immobilized attacker who's planting the diffuser, he's not going to miss. Almost nobody in the lobby is. So really does kind of fall on the shoulders of Giddy losing that engagement, because then you can't have somebody on the side of Cloud9 move upstairs at that point. You've only got 3 players at your disposal. Dream is out of the equation because he's the one planting the diffuse kit. Giddy is dead. You've got 3 guys who are now going to need to ascend the stairs, but even then, Nafe is going to be prepped and ready for it, and it's also going to waste too much time. Darkzero win that round. They've managed to close the gap. We are still very much in all 12 rounds territory, which would be very fitting with what we've seen through our first 2 matches of the day.
Feels like we definitely could be heading to another overtime because this game has just gone back and forth, and Cloud9 only 1 attack so far. I think it was a strong attack on that top floor, usually a tough site to clear out, but we won't likely see it again until the next round. I think there's a good chance Darkzero go kitchen at some point in this game. They've played it a few times through stage 1. They played it 3 times domestically. They had a pretty good win rate on it. So we could see that switch up happen too, but won't be for a round or 2 when we see it. Storage is going to be the call for now. Top floor is somewhat contested. Citizen, Nafe, and Spirits are up here, so definitely something that DZ want to hold on to. I like the mirror band quite a bit from Cloud9. She can be so powerful on a map like this. The Striker easily opens up the wall to clear out the mute jammers, so no issues there. And eventually, once we start hitting this kind of minute 30 mark, the push from Cloud9 will come, and the top floor will be a fury of frags unless DZ choose to leave.
take a moment here while there's a bit of a lull between the teams to talk about their upcoming matchups. Well, right as I say that, Bambazu dies to silent. But okay, we can just very briefly skate over that. As mentioned in match number 1, Darkzero will go up against Shopify Rebel. Okay, they're just, okay. Hat kills Knave. I'll save my moment for a better time, I suppose. C9 is slaughtering DZ. A flawless round is incoming. As Spirits goes to shoulder check, he gets the down on Nagitty. He'll get the secure as well. So flawless denied. Hat will eat a whole bunch of pellets, but ultimately persevere, and C9 will move to match point. Jesse, I guess the moral of the story is even when the clock says 140 and it appears from silhouettes that most of these players are far removed from each other, that all you need to do is start talking about the future, and then the present comes screaming into your face. So, great round from Cloud9. Darkzero, well, DZ looked indomitable in stage 1. Their only 2 losses in the group stage occurred in their final 2 play days, and they came against Shopify Rebellion, who ended up winning the league, well, the group stage, and Space Station, who ended up winning the entire stage. So DZ's 2 losses were against teams 1 and 3 in the group stage and ended up being teams 2 and 3 in the playoffs. Losing here to Cloud9, a team that finished outside of the playoffs in stage 1, has a new IGL, as a new player, a new system, well, that would be a pretty large stumble for DZ. We say stumble, but that's mostly based on Cloud9's performance in stage 1. There is an entire possibility that C9 could be a top 4 team here, and we are just watching 2 juggernauts do battle, but the beauty about a new stage is that we have no idea if that's true, and we won't know for at least a couple more play days.
Cloud9 going to be on match point. The underdogs up against DZ, and I mean 6-4. Go back to that round, and I did warn you, Parker, it was going to be a fury of frags on the top floor, and it absolutely was. All eyes were on Dream and his entrance on the Blackbeard through top Aqua, but that's not where the kills were coming from. We witnessed Silent get his first kill lurking in through the basement. He ended up walking up Cargo for a huge kill, his second of that round, and then just Hat coming in mostly by himself in towards meeting, in towards connector, got 2 kills on a bit of a backstab again as everybody was focused on Dream. Maybe hasn't been the biggest game for Hat. Took him a while to get his first kill, but a big 2K in the previous round pushes Cloud9 to where they want to be, 6-4 at this point. Feeling strong with that result, and I got to imagine that Darkzero, they'll be shaking a little bit. Now, they're an experienced team, and they're not going to be quaking in their boots at this. They've been in far more perilous situations, but having to call that attack timeout, probably to calm things down a little bit, right? To get themselves back onto their game plan, to understand what Cloud9 have been going for on these attacks, where they have been quite separated, they have been quite individual, but still working together on the timings. That'll be the challenge that DZ will need to try to get past. It's top floor for round 11, probably basement, could be kitchen for round 12. Awkward spot for them to be in.
A lot of long faces on that DZ bench is, I mean, when you look at how a stage shakes out, if you want to be a top 4 team, you need to beat the teams that are presumed to be towards the bottom of the standings. This was something that I said, we'll probably say more often, but something I said earlier in the broadcast. If you're Darkzero and you want to repeat the success you had, which is finishing 2nd in the group stages and then 2nd in the playoffs, and I mean repeat, I mean like obviously the goal here is to finish better, but if your goal is to finish at least 2nd place or above, flat out, you cannot be losing games to teams like Cloud9. Now, Darkzero can still easily win here, but the only way to do that is through overtime, which means they've already surrendered a point to Cloud9. 6 rounds means Cloud9 cannot be defeated in regulation. The only way that C9 can lose is OT, which means that DZ would get 2 points, C9 would get 1. That's not great. That's already well behind where DZ was after the first match of stage 1. I don't know if it's a step back for Darkzero, but I will say, irrespective of DZ, Cloud9 has impressed today.
Only can openers for Hard Breach, but that really hasn't been an issue for Cloud9. They've been pretty consistent in getting through these small angles. Once again, they do find a way in through connector wall. Nitro gets dodged, and Hat is trying to take this fight. DZ trying to play a little bit more aggressive so that they can take control and get this opening pick. But so far, Cloud9 aren't giving him anything.
Not at all. This is great patience from C9. And again, how much of this is Dreams calling? If C9 does prevail, I'd love to hear what they have to say about the changes that have come in with him as IGL. Kobe's the first casualty, comes at the 40-second remaining mark. So another slow round. Spirits will gun down Dream. A mighty hard attack here. But just like that, DZ's lost a couple players. Pambazu back on the board. Giddy dies. It's all up to Hat to win a 1v2, or we are prolonging this match. Hat's inside of Electrical, and you see them on the ground patiently waiting for him. That was Pambazu, hungry for kill number 10. Hat powering up. 6 kills at that point, but that's all he's going to get. Because Pambazu will get the final kill, he will break double digits, and we will have at least one more round.
Listen, I was talking about how good Kobe can be on the Azami top floor, but Pamba is just as good, if not even better at times, and he played that so well around the breach. Just as I was saying, they're not struggling with the can openers. What happens? Well, one can opener can get fully blocked by a Kiba barrier, so then they don't know what's going on the other side. This kill right here is where everything starts to fall apart. It's just Kobe going down, but that's the Ying off the board. That means it's really difficult now for you to actually make your entry points. Everybody's trying to get through these very small angles, walking through electrical door, walking through maybe that breach inside a connector, trying to get in through IT. So all of these small angles where the Clash is giving you information, the Kibas are blocking you more and more, and it just ends up being a stuffed push that Darkzero are able to shut down. So nicely played by Pambazu there. He will tie NJR for top fragging on DZ. Giddy still leads technically with 11 kills in this lobby, but it's all going to be meaningless if they can't close this one out either in regulation in round 12 or in overtime in 14 or 15. Today just happens to be the greatest day of the NAL league that we've ever had, Parker. I don't know what it is, but every game has been phenomenal.
I think they just want Siege back so badly that they're not going to let it go. And whatever Siege gods or deities or whatever higher power might exist, they just never want this to end. I do like this change, by the way. An Osa being brought. I Dream on match point. I dig it.
We'll see how it goes. There are 2 impacts being played by Spirits, but he's top floor. The Osa, of course, is likely to go in through the main assembly wall down through the basement to get the outer wall. They'll have smokes to stop this as well. 6 smokes, including the Capitao. So that'll be helpful for them. But the Toxic Babes from NJR, the Nitro Cell from Nafe, even technically if he had any, he doesn't, but the Elemines from Citizen pin stop those plants in their tracks. So these are all things that Cloud9 will have to be aware of when they go for this plant. Again, you'd expect him to walk in the assembly wall, but honestly, Animus wouldn't be a bad play either to bring with this, considering all the information they have.
There's that Osa shield being trotted in to Animus, as you talked about, and they've got that open wall. But again, what will happen on that floor above? They're in the basement. You cannot go for too linear of an execute. It did not work out that well. Amidst their own smoke, the gas goes out. Nafe dies. Dream taking an awful lot of damage. Silent has also been dropped by Nafe as Pambazu eliminates Kobe Lax. And what a mess it is. We're halfway through the round. 3 people dead. And it looks like Cloud9 will have to go back to the drawing board.
Still a fight up top. Pamba's being hunted. He's only on 1 HP, so this should be good for Hat, but he just leaves. And Hat's not going to be aware of that. Pamba not too far off, and that forces Hat to make a move. He finds Spirits instead, not who he was looking for. There he is. Pamba sneaks out from the side, baits his teammate a little bit, but still gets the kill and keeps man advantage in favor of Cloud9. Now there's 60 seconds, and they've still got to deal with the guy up above. Dream and Giddy are very disconnected. At least Dream's fragging.
And they are doing very well. A 1v1, Giddy versus Citizen to decide this match. If Citizen prevails, we go to overtime. Giddy wins. That's all 3 points for the new Cloud9 roster. Giddy has tucked his way in. I like his odds at long range. Citizen just needs to play patiently, though. There is no reason for him to aggress, but he does it and wins it. It could have easily been a blunder, but he trusted himself. He caught Giddy off guard, and we go to OT for the 2nd time today.
The #1 player from Stage 1 in North America League with a 149 KDR steps up in the 1v1. Citizen, ridiculously impressive, gets that kill. Giddy just unfortunately not holding it. He knew where he was. He should have been able to lock it in, but he just wasn't able to predict it. A crazy round start to finish. I mean, the 1v1 will be what people focus on, but even in the early round, chaos with that initial Osa plant attempt. I don't think it was a serious attempt. I think it was more of a bait because a lot of utility from Cloud9, including both Osa shields, were not committed to that first pseudo execute in from Animus. I think they were trying to just bait out Toxic Babes, but they ended up getting a lot more than they bargained for. Lost the man advantage, and then Pamba on the top floor, just a menace that they never had a good answer for. So many of these rounds, Parker, have just evolved into chaos. Both when it was Darkzero on the defensive side and then Cloud9 on the defensive side too. It didn't seem to matter. These rounds are getting so scrappy in the late rounds, and it's a large part because both teams on defense want to step up and take those early fights so that there is no full 5v5 execute or 4v4 execute. Always getting really down to the wire.
It's been scrappy. It's been chaotic. It's been messy. It's been kind of outside the norm of a Nighthaven Labs match. I mean, we're not expecting a strategic show off of skills here, but I think there is an expectation that there is a bit more science behind it than what we've seen. I don't want to say that to take away the way that these teams have set it up. You know, you gave credit to some of the setups that you saw from Cloud9 when they were defending. You did the same to DZ. There is strategy at play here, but it is a big map. And if you're a team like DZ, who mechanically can match up against the best, and if you're a team like C9 that is probably still working through strats in real time and is probably struggling to put them into action because, again, scrims are not a substitute for actual play days, then you can get a little bit frag heavy, and it might work. It's one thing that we used to see when there would be open qualifiers. The teams that were not playing at a tier 1 level consistently would be playing, frankly, really ugly Siege. They'd be very, very frag heavy. They'd just be flying through windows. They'd be doing goofy stuff that we'd kind of scratch our heads at. But honestly, it works more often than it doesn't. If you go into a match expecting them to play the same style of Siege as you, and then next thing you know, they're hitting you with clotheslines and 5-star frog splashes off the top rope, you're not going to be really prepared for that. It's going to take you some time to mentally adjust it. I mean, there is no shortage of qualifier VODs out there where you can go and see teams playing at a T2 and a T3 level, doing that up against T1 teams and succeeding. These are both tier 1 teams, but Cloud9 can be a bit scrappy and it trips up DZ more often than not.
Spears is in a really dangerous spot. I'm not sure if they know he's there. They were entering in through the top floor. Both EMPs from Hat. No, I believe he got the meat jammer on the second one, so they'll get the angle at least. But Spirits, whether they know he's here or not, he's very close to most of the players on Cloud9. Citizen is in cafeteria, could maybe help him out if he walks up lobby stairs, but he's got his own problems playing beside Pambazoo. Solves it perfectly. 2 big headshots from Pamba get the job done, and it's all Darkzero in round 13.
Cloud9 have come so close. You know what this is giving me shades of? And I don't want to cast or curse it, but it's giving me shades of that Envy Shopify Rebellion match in stage 1 where we were like, oh my god, Envy's gonna do it! And then Shopify Rebellion won at the last minute. I don't want to write the ending to this tale too early, especially after Hat just managed to punish NJR and keep this relatively close in numbers. But it honestly kind of feels that way where Cloud9 run away with it and then DZ say, okay, that's enough. And then scale it back in overtime and persevere. If you're somebody who places bets, if you like to gamble and wonder, I don't mean with real money, I just mean in speculation. I assume most people are placing their proverbial bets on DZ here, given that they're on defense and they have a numbers advantage. But C9 does have time to work through this.
Opting to give up the defuse kit. They had control of it inside of Cafeteria, but thinking that they'll be better in a 3v2 situation on site. Cafeteria is kind of awkward to hold, so I do think that's the right decision from Darkzero. And it's wasting so much time from Cloud9 because they had to go recover that kit. They'll both be pushing in through the EXO room. They're going to have to try to get a plant down meeting, but this is going to be so predictable, and Darkzero should know it's coming.
Attackers have located a bomb.
And they'll both work their way through the same door frame, and the eyes from DZ will be pointed in their direction. Down goes Hat, who's put together quite a nice body of work since a slow start. 0-4, going 8-7 since. That's honestly not bad against this DZ team. Giddy will be buried not far from Hat, and DZ will take the lead, something we haven't been saying all that much in this series. DZ triumphant on defense, but how do they do it? On their one crack at attacking.
Yeah, it hasn't been since round 2 when Darkzero have had the lead, so it's been a hot minute since they've felt like they've had control of this game. That's a big one, though. I mean, that can be a huge difference maker, winning that round 13. I do want to think that like that blitz play coming in through cafeteria wasn't what Cloud9 thought it was going to be. I don't think they realized just how heavily of a roam game there was. Not only was Spirits on the top floor, but both Pamba and Citizen playing in cafeteria, they didn't seem to realize how many players were up top, and if they did, they certainly didn't deal with it very well. 2v3 I don't think was really possible, just given the positioning of where everybody was at. So it comes down to that early game, and the defuse keep being dropped so quickly. Big play, though, to come out from Darkzero. It's nice to see Pamba really stepping up. I think he has been the MVP on this defensive side. Not really a young gunner anymore, but certainly was when he first joined this DZ team a few years back. Now has been certainly one of the most experienced players in North America League and has consistently been one of those top performers. Always a pleasure to see Pamba have his party time.
I mean, Pamba has been one of the most consistent NA League players since he made his debut years and years ago. And it doesn't matter what team he's playing against. It doesn't matter what role he's on. Even there have been times where we've looked at it and said, no, that doesn't really seem to suit him all that well. His teammates can make some change, or the team can make some changes for rosters and surround him with different people. It's still going to be the same Robbie that shows up to an event in the freezing cold with only shorts packed in his suitcase and drops 18 kills against these teams. I'm not sure what's going on, but we got a break ready for you. So sit tight and we'll be back with more C9 DZ. Thank you so much for your patience. If you are just tuning in, you might be shocked at the scoreline in front of you. Cloud9 were in great shape to close this one out in regulation. They weren't able to do it, so now we go to OT, and Darkzero won the very first round of overtime and now set themselves up to be the team that ultimately wins it all. The newest operator added to Rainbow Six Siege is Denari. First was played by C9 earlier in the half. We didn't really get to see that much out of him when Silent was playing him. Now we're going to see how Dream pilots the operator. Basically, you have these little trip mines that you throw out, and when they connect with each other, they create a laser grid that does damage, destroys projectiles, etc., yada, yada, yada. And the problem is destroying them without taking any damage. That can be a little bit tricky. As you see, they very nicely snap into each other and create a connected web. It's 7 of them. Denari is a Swiss defender and was added in Operation High Stakes just a couple days ago.
That's a cool little setup that Dream's got. He's had multiple different areas where he's been using these gadgets, so have 3 different points where if Darkzero want to enter, they'll have to find some solution to that. Bottom Aqua seems to be the focal point. If they enter top Aqua, that's where one of those trips will be. Citizen on the Buck. I think hoping that he could find Dream on the Clash from this position, but the Clash not being brought this time around means that he can simply just create angles and stop certain positions from being held instead. Specifically just outside of Electrical can be a really powerful position to be held by Cloud9, so they can kind of deny that now that they've got the Buck open. Thermite being used because Cloud9 did not ban any hard breachers, which is a little bit unorthodox on Nighthaven Labs, means that the walls shouldn't have any real issues getting opened. Kaid, Bandit, and Mute Band certainly help with that as well.
I expect a relatively slow pace here from Darkzero as they sort out this Cloud9 defense. I've seen some brisk affairs from both of these teams so far through this match. Spirits has found himself closing in on the danger zone as he's on the stairs leading up to rafters in garage. Fire raining out in front of him. Those are the volcanic canisters on the side of Giddy that have been popped. Kobilax dies first. Former player of Darkzero, by the way, and he's the first casualty. He's had an all right game. Unfortunate that he won't be much of a factor for the remaining 1 minute and 10 seconds. But as an Azami, those Kiba barriers should still persist until they get shot away at.
Somebody kind of needs to step up on Cloud9. I mean, Can't be going for a man disadvantage. This is the real first time we've let Darkzero set up and go for the 5v5 push they wanted. Silent tries to make that happen. He tries to be the guy who steps up, but he ends up just going down to Nath. It's being predicted by Darkzero. The chaos that Cloud9 were implementing is no longer coming to fruition. Giddy gets at least one for his troubles, but this Monty push is still something that they don't have good answers for.
No, not at all. You've got a Nitro Cell and an Impact in pocket. If the time continues to run against you, you're in rough shape. Spirit's absorbing a lot of damage on that ballistic shield, but not taking any damage in the process as he toys with walking through the threshold that now allows him to get the plant down. DZ will watch over top as down goes Dream. Giddy and Hat are the last two standing. What a match it's been for Cloud9. These two players will need to unite to do some serious damage and keep their team in it.
5 seconds left.
Giddy was the savior of many rounds. He finds Nath as the diffuser goes down. Another over on the hatch as Giddy tries his luck for a second time. But there's a Monty still on the board and two of the best players from DZ available. NJR goes down. This is winnable for Giddy. He just has to outduel the Monty. But Pambazoo is front and center and shuts down the attempted comeback from Cloud9. DZ spent most of that match staring at the smaller number on the scoreboard. But just as the game got close, they pulled ahead. They win. C9 get ever so close. The 1 point in OT is the best that new roster will be able to get as DZ takes the win.
I'm a little worried that was going to be a premature GG, but in the end, it is a solid two-man hold from Pamba and Spirits. They did have full information, so they lock it down safely. That tech timeout, just unfortunate for Cloud9.
And that's it for our third match. We'll see you in a few minutes for more Siege X.
Yeah, I can speak off you for jungle. Actually, I'm holding an angle here.
Fucking go, good shit, guys.
I'm coming over.
Up jungle.
Alright, chill.
Chill.
I'm more to class.
Fucking shit's on me.
Let's go!
Well, we're 3 for 3 today, either max regulation or some overtime action. We've had 3 thrillers so far, and once again, we see another one go into OT. This one, DZ, 8-6. They're able to close it out over this Cloud9 roster. Well, welcome in NJR, standing by for the interview here as we get into this post-game. NJR, another long game today. We were just remarking how we've had some seriously long matchups. This one, a team that maybe we weren't expecting to be the strongest, come out and perform pretty well against you. What was your initial reaction facing this new roster?
I mean, we kind of went into it not really expecting much, kind of just playing our own game because they had an IGL change and we didn't have any prep work to do really, so we just kind of went in worrying about ourselves.
Right. I mean, you guys adapted on the fly. Obviously, that's what you guys are known for, is being able to adapt and grow. And, you know, I think it's safe to say that EWC didn't go the favor that you guys wanted. So now for stage 2, what are you guys focusing on to make sure is more consistent throughout this stage and hopefully going into the next Munich Major?
I think after EWC, we're kind of taking a step back as a team. Like, I think we got a little too ahead of ourselves, focusing too hard on like the strategic part of the game, and now we're going back, focusing on fundamentals a lot, and taking it step by step from there.
Fair enough. And then obviously I just want to ask, you know, give a little flowers to Cloud9. They went for a pretty big roster change with changing their IGL up. How did you guys feel it was going up against them compared to stage 1?
I mean, I think they felt a lot better, like, as a team. I do think we were losing the rounds to ourselves, kind of giving them like easy picks, but despite that, I do think they played a good game.
And our last question for you, expectations kind of standard going into this stage. Obviously, great stage 1 performance, you go to EWC. Do you have your sights set on Munich and on competing at an international level? Where do you expect this stage to go?
I always expect qualifying to events and winning them. Nothing else.
All right, fair enough. Thank you so much for your time, NJR. Congrats on the win. We'll see you down the line.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. NJR, obviously fairly succinct. DZ, as usual, right? Focusing on themselves, staying internal. But Lax, it sounds like they thought Cloud9 were a bit stronger of a team, at least how they played them today on Labs. They had some difficulty closing this match out.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, you know, as hard as I was and as critical was about this Cloud9 change, I am a little bit impressed. Now, given it is the first day, there's still a lot more Siege to be played. There's still a lot more games that we have to see. Consistency coming out of both ends, actually, especially for Darkzero, saying that they're taking a step back and reviewing how they want to approach Siege instead of getting ahead of themselves. So obviously, even for Darkzero's sake, we got to see a little more from them, because I know this matchup, comparatively to the first stage, this was not the performance that they wanted. As NJR even said, they felt like they lost the majority of these rounds to themselves, but still gave Cloud9 their flowers, which again, I am impressed by what we have seen so early on, but again, to see consistency is going to be the biggest factor for Cloud9 throughout this stage.
I don't know. Impress is a strong word. I wouldn't say I was impressed with Cloud9. I mean, I think they played a lot better, but obviously they're a new team. They switch up roles, switch up their IGL. So when you're a team going up against them, Darkzero doesn't necessarily have the counter strats to be able to rely on it, because you never know. C9's always going to be a new team, even if it's the same strats, different players. And I think two aspects is IGLing. I mean, when push came to shove, it looked like the IGLing fell flat. This is the similar Cloud9 that we saw in stage 1. Their preparation was very good. Preparation was amazing. But that's the same thing that we saw in stage 1. So maybe that's not coming from the IGL as it is coming from the coach. I mean, Vivid's been doing a great job on the team. So their preparation shows up, especially against the big teams. But they run out of gas fast, and that's exactly what we saw. As for the other aspect of frag power, I mean, huge commendations to Giddy, because he's improved a lot since stage 1, and that was the firepower that they needed in this game to keep it close. But that's where the consistency comes in. Are we going to see this game from Giddy time and time again? I don't know. As for Hat, the final piece of the puzzle, I don't know. I'm still skeptical.
I mean, I think he stepped
2 and 7 up until overtime.
I was gonna say, what do you want from a player? Either keep that consistency of not finding their footing, or at least by the end of the game, however long that gets stretched out, that they do start a bounce back.
First game, new roster, it wasn't bad.
Yeah, I think it was bad. I think when it mattered most, he wasn't there. And in the game, in the rounds where they didn't win, rounds where they're hemorrhaging kills, that's when he starts getting frags. I don't think that's a comfortable position for your newest player to be in, especially when it's like, oh, we lost, now it's time for me to go big. When if we just saw Had show up a little sooner, maybe we would have seen C9 not run out of gas in the end.
Well, stage 2, day 1, already 3 matches in. For those of you just joining us, we'll give you a look back at how we got to this point today. We opened things up with a 15-round thriller, Shopify Rebellion, taking the win over Wildcard and keeping the 9-0 group stage hopes alive. Space Station taking it over Standby, but another close game, and we just saw Laxing Darkzero take that 8-6 win.
Hey, at least this is a far more competitive NA start that we are getting to see, whereas previously it seemed very top heavy. So I am thankful in that regard for not only me being here, us being here, but even for the audience being able to watch these games really be slugfest and just not the upper end, the upper echelon just absolutely dominating.
And at the very end of last stage, that's where we saw that jockeying for position and that parity. But like you said, good to see that now.
Absolutely.
Well, two of those teams who were jockeying for position, M80 and OXG, they've gone toe-to-toe twice last stage. M80 came out on top both times, but OXG finished higher on the standings. Complicated there. OXG looking for some revenge. Stage 2 of the NAL continues after this.